This is Mantis Mechanics. My name is Lee, and today we're going to talk about proper fighting stance. Stay tuned. Alright, when you think Kung Fu fighting stance, you probably think of something like this, or something like this, or maybe even something like this. Well, I'm here to tell you today that those are whack. Do not do those. Yes, I'm bringing back whack. When you are doing a fighting stance, you want three things. You want mobility, you want stability, and you want protection. So let me explain what those are really quickly. Mobility, the ability to move around. You need to be able to move. If you are static, if you're stuck in some low horse stance, you can't move around too quickly. So obviously, we're not going to start off in a horse stance. You also need stability. If your stance is too narrow or wide but narrow and you don't have good balance, you're not going to be very stable. So you want your stance to be stable. If you don't have your balance, you cannot throw good strikes from that stance. Okay, and the last one is protection. You want to offer as little bit of a target to your opponent as possible while still keeping good stability and good mobility. So let's go in a little deeper about those three things. All right, so how do we decide where our stance is going to begin? What I like to do is choose an athletic position for the student. So what I'll have the student do is stand with their feet together. I'll tell them to take one step forward and act like they're going to jump as high as they can. Something like this. Like I'm going to jump and dunk a basketball without actually jumping, because this width is where we're going to start with our stance. The reason why I start with this width is because it's stable, right? I'm not going to lose my balance. And I'm athletic, because if I can jump high as I can, that's going to be my naturally most athletic stance. So jumping is a very athletic activity, right? Your back flips, your front flips, all those sort of things, your kicks, all those sort of things start with the jump, right? If you're doing jumping side kick, whatever. So if I'm in my naturally athletic position, if I'm right-handed, I'm going to step with my right leg back. If I'm left-handed, I'm going to step with my left leg back. Okay, but this is the width. If I were to step and put my feet together and act like I was going to jump high, I'm not going to jump that high from there. Same thing if I step and I go too wide. Okay, so this is a good test, so you don't have to like measure people. I've seen people measure their fists, or they try to get right. They're looking in a mirror trying to adjust their feet so they're right shoulder width. Don't worry about that. Just take a step. Here, this is our naturally athletic stance. We're going to step back. Okay, the next thing you want to do with your feet is keep the weight in the balls of the feet. You want the feet generally like 45-degree angle, somewhere between 45 and straight ahead. I don't want my feet turned to the side like this. I also don't want them straight ahead. I want them somewhere in here. And I want to keep the weight in the balls of the feet. Okay? We want to keep it in a point in Chinese Kung Fu we call Yang Chuan, which I show here. Okay? So Yang Chuan is on the ball of feet. You don't want your weight in the heels. Okay? They call this fighting flat-footed, when people keep their weight just centered over their heels or not in the balls of their feet. And it's bad because if someone attacks you, you end up off balance and on your heels. It's the same thing like if you were covering somebody in basketball or in football and they say they catch you flat-footed, meaning you weren't on the balls of your feet, right? The weight wasn't over the balls of your feet, and you started going on your heels, and then they start running like this, and the guy runs right past you, right? If you keep the weight in the balls of your feet, and that doesn't mean necessarily, if you look, it doesn't mean, here, my weight's in my balls of my feet, now it's in the heels. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm on my toes, right? I don't need to fight like this, okay? And you rarely see people fight like that, right? They may move like that on their toes, but once they're settled, they're going to stay somewhere in here. Keeping the weight centered over that point in the balls of the feet, that's very important. The next thing is how you blade your body. I don't want my body pointed straight ahead. Okay, this offers a big target. Remember, we talked about protection. My body's a big target here. He's got all these points to hit me in. If I turn my body, now it becomes a smaller target. Okay, I'm going to then take my backhand and bring it to my chin like I'm answering a telephone, keeping my elbow down. Don't bring the elbow up. The second hand, or the front hand, is going to come right up and be right in front of my face. So now you can see from this stance that if they want to punch me, they have to come around. They can't just hit me. If I keep my hands like this, or if I do like this, I see a lot of people do this, I'm not protecting myself. I'm just saying that I want to fight you. Okay, this is no good. It doesn't protect my head. It kind of protects my body, but we want to protect both, right? So now I've got my elbows down. My elbows are protecting my body. My hands are protecting my face. So this is a very general fighting stance, okay? As you get more comfortable in this stance, I do believe that you should learn to fight with both legs forward. So if you should fight like this, then you should also be able to fight like this, okay? But pick a main side in the beginning, because a big mistake that beginners make is they switch their legs too much. They do this for no reason and just constantly switching stance because they don't know what they're doing. Okay, so pick a side first, then once you get comfortable with one side, you can move to the other side. Same thing with the width and the height of your stance, right? So you can play with these sort of things. If I want, I can go a little lower in my stance, right? Maybe I'm in here, going a little lower, playing with the depth of my stance. Or I might go a little wider in my stance, or maybe a little bit narrower, meaning if I'm going up against somebody who's maybe stronger than me or like a better wrestler than me, then I might have a wider stance. If I'm going with somebody who's faster than me, then I'm probably going to narrow up my stance for more mobility. So remember that if you widen your stance, you're going to get a little bit more of that stability, but less mobility. And if you narrow your stance, you're going to get a little less stability, but a little more mobility. Okay, up to a point, right? At one point, if you're too wide, you're just going to lose all your mobility and your stability. And if you go too narrow, you're going to lose both those things as well. The other thing you can do is play with your hand position. If you're here, right, once you get good, once you get comfortable, you can start maybe place your hands out here. You can place one hand down. There's a lot of different things that you can play around with. But in the beginning, just stick to this, keeping your hands up, protecting yourself at all times. Okay? This is Lee with Mantis Mechanics. If you have any questions or comments, please put them below. Like the video, share if you like us on Facebook, and email me with any questions. We'll see you next time.